Your Saturday, January 24th, 2026. A powerful morning prayer declaring God's favor, peace, and strength. Don't scroll. Don't you dare scroll yet, because this message didn't find you by accident and you didn't land here randomly. Listen to this, because this message is for you, and your heart already knows it needs this right now. This Saturday morning is different. January 24th, 2026 carries a spiritual weight, a quiet authority, a divine assignment that heaven placed on this exact day. And before the world pulls at your attention, God is pulling at your spirit, speaking softly but firmly, saying, I see you, I know you, and I have not forgotten the prayers you whispered when no one else was listening, the tears you wiped away in silence, the nights you stayed strong when you wanted to give up. And right now, as you hear these words, something inside you is already shifting, because this is not just a prayer, this is a prophetic declaration over your life, a reminder that you are standing at the edge of a turning point. Even if your circumstances haven't caught up yet, because God never moves loudly. First, He moves spiritually before anything manifests physically, and this morning He is declaring favor over you. Not shallow luck, not temporary blessings, but lasting favor that goes before you, stands beside you, and follows behind you. Favor that opens doors you were never meant to force. Favor that causes people to help you without knowing why. Favor that protects you from things you didn't even see coming. And peace, real peace, is being released over your mind right now. Not the kind that ignores reality, but the kind that steadies you when reality feels overwhelming, because God knows how heavy your thoughts have been lately. He knows how your mind keeps replaying old conversations, missed chances, broken connections, and unanswered questions, and He's saying enough fear, enough self-doubt, enough carrying what I never asked you to carry alone. This morning I give you peace that settles your breathing, peace that quiets the inner noise, peace that reminds you that you are safe even in the waiting, and strength, yes, strength, is being poured back into you right now. Strength for your body, strength for your emotions, strength for your faith, because you've been running on empty longer than you admit, showing up for everyone else while quietly asking God when it would be your turn. And heaven is answering today, not always in the way you expect, but always in the way you need. And listen closely, because if you've been seeing repeating numbers like 11, 222, 333, 444, or 777, this is confirmation, not coincidence, signs that alignment is happening, that divine timing is locking into place, that what felt delayed was actually being protected, that what you thought was denial was really preparation. And there is also a deeper revelation unfolding for you now. Something your soul has been aching for, a connection that feels familiar yet new, a soulmate alignment that is not just about romance but about recognition, someone who sees you, understands you, and matches your spirit, someone sent not to complete you but to walk with you as you step into who you're becoming. And if you've felt lonely even when surrounded by people, it's because your spirit has outgrown certain spaces, and God is gently moving you toward what matches your next level. This is part of your spiritual awakening, the moment where you stop shrinking, stop explaining your worth, stop settling for half love and half purpose, and begin to stand fully in who God created you to be. And yes, it may feel uncomfortable at times, because growth always does. But discomfort is often the sound of old limits breaking, and right now old cycles are closing, patterns that no longer serve you are losing their grip, wounds that once defined you are no longer allowed to lead you, and even if you don't see it yet, your life is being rearranged for your good, and God is asking you this morning to trust what He's doing even when you don't understand the how, because breakthrough rarely announces itself, it arrives quietly. Like peace returning to your chest, like hope sneaking back into your thoughts, like a sudden calm where anxiety used to live, and there is a moment attached to this day. A moment you will look back on and say something shifted there, something changed in me. Maybe it will come through a message, a phone call, an unexpected opportunity, or simply a deep inner knowing that you are no longer the same. But however it arrives, it will remind you that God's timing is precise, never late, never careless, always intentional. And so this morning we declare it boldly: peace over your heart, clarity over your mind, strength over your body, favor over every step you take today. We declare that doors open smoothly, that burdens feel lighter, that joy returns in small but meaningful ways, that love finds you in forms you didn't expect, and that you walk through this Saturday knowing you are covered, guided, protected, and deeply loved. You are not behind, you are not forgotten, you are not disqualified, you are exactly where you need to be for what's coming next. So stay open, stay grounded, stay expectant, because heaven is still speaking, the universe is still aligning, and your story, your real story, is just beginning. Listen carefully now, because this is where the message goes deeper. This is where it stops sounding like words and starts feeling like truth settling into your bones. Because God is not only declaring favor over you today, He is also correcting what the enemy tried to convince you of about yourself. He is untangling lies you've unknowingly been carrying, lies that told you were behind, that you miss your moment, that you should be further along by now, and heaven is interrupting those thoughts right now, saying no, you were never late, you were being positioned, and every delay you questioned was actually divine protection, because if certain doors had opened when you begged them to, they would have crushed the version of you that existed back then. But now you're stronger, wiser, more discerning, and more spiritually awake than you were before. And God trusts you with what's coming next. That's why this morning feels different. That's why your spirit feels alert even if your body feels tired. Because something is aligning beneath the surface. Something you can't fully explain yet, but you can feel it. Like pressure before rain, like calm before movement. And God is saying today, I am removing the weight you were never meant to carry alone. The guilt from choices you've already paid for. The shame from seasons that taught you lessons instead of giving you rewards. The grief from people who walked away without explanation. And the fear that crept in quietly and made you question your own worth. And hear this clearly, because this is prophetic. The season of self-blame is ending. The season of overthinking every move is closing. And the season of second-guessing your intuition is breaking off of you right now. Because you have grown spiritually sharper than you realize, your discernment is stronger, your awareness is clearer. And God has been training you in silence, teaching you how to hear Him without noise, how to trust His nudges without needing constant confirmation. And that's why lately you've felt uncomfortable in spaces that once felt familiar. That's why certain conversations drain you instead of inspire you. That's why your soul has been craving depth instead of distraction. It's because you are awakening to a higher level of purpose. And with that awakening comes a realignment of relationships, priorities, and desires. And yes, that includes love, because God is also healing how you love and what you tolerate. He's teaching you the difference between attachment and alignment, between loneliness and companionship, between attention and intention. And some of you listening to this have been praying quietly for a soulmate connection that feels safe, honest, spiritually grounded, not perfect but real, not rushed but intentional. And heaven has heard that prayer. But before God sends the person, He's been preparing the heart, because alignment attracts alignment. And you are becoming the kind of person who can receive the love you once begged for. And this morning is part of that preparation. Because peace has to come before partnership, wholeness has to come before union, and self-trust has to come before shared vision. And if you've been seeing signs lately, songs repeating at the right moment, numbers showing up everywhere, dreams that feel symbolic instead of random, sudden memories resurfacing, or a strange sense of anticipation without knowing why, Those are signals, confirmations that your subconscious and your spirit are syncing up, that God is speaking to you in layers. Because not everything He says comes through words. Some things come through timing, through patterns, through feelings that don't make logical sense yet. And God is asking you right now to stay present, to stop rushing the outcome, to stop comparing your path to someone else's highlight reel. Because what He is building in your life has depth, not just speed routes, not just results. And this is also a warning wrapped in love. Don't go back to what God already delivered you from just because it feels familiar. Don't reopen doors He helped you close just because you feel lonely in the waiting. Don't lower your standards to match someone else's comfort level. Because you didn't come this far to repeat the same lesson in a different disguise. And today God is strengthening your boundaries. Not to isolate you, but to protect what He's growing inside you. And as this prayer continues, strength is entering your body, not adrenaline strength, but steady strength, the kind that helps you show up consistently, the kind that lets you rest without guilt, the kind that reminds you that you don't have to prove your worth by overworking, overgiving, or overexplaining. And peace is settling deeper now, peace that quiets the urge to control everything. Peace that allows you to trust the process even when details are missing. Peace that gives you permission to breathe again. And I need you to hear this next part slowly, because it's important. What you're waiting for is also waiting for you. The timing is being coordinated, the pieces are moving, the hearts involved are being prepared, and nothing meant for you will miss you, and nothing not meant for you can stay. So today, instead of worrying about what hasn't happened yet, God is inviting you to receive what's happening right now. Clarity replacing confusion, hope replacing heaviness, faith replacing fear, and confidence replacing self-doubt. Because this is not just another day, this is a checkpoint, a recalibration, a moment where heaven gently but firmly reminds you who you are and whose you are. And as you move through the rest of this Saturday, you will notice subtle shifts, your reactions softer, your thoughts calmer, your expectations healthier, your heart lighter, and that's how you'll know this prayer worked, not because everything changed instantly, but because you did, and from this place, everything else will begin to follow. Stay with me, don't let your attention drift now, because this is the moment where things begin to make sense in a way they never have before. This is where the fog starts lifting and the truth gently but firmly steps forward, because God is not only shifting circumstances around you, He is reshaping how you see yourself within them, and that is always the hardest and holiest work, the kind that happens quietly, internally, without applause, yet changes everything. And right now your spirit is being invited to step into a deeper level of trust, not blind trust, but rooted trust, the kind that comes from surviving what you thought would break you and realizing you're still standing, still breathing, still believing, even after disappointment. And God is saying, I have been watching how you handle the waiting, how you respond when things don't go your way, how you love even after being misunderstood, how you keep showing up even when motivation fades. And that's why this next season is going to feel different. Because it's not built on desperation anymore, it's built on discernment, and that changes everything. Especially when it comes to love, purpose, and calling, because many of you listening to this have felt an unexplainable pull lately, like your soul is being stretched, like you're outgrowing old desires and old versions of yourself, like what once excited you no longer satisfies you. And that's not boredom, that's awakening. That's the sound of your spirit rising to meet what God has already prepared, and in this awakening there is a recognition happening, a moment where you realize you no longer want to be chosen out of convenience, you want to be chosen with intention. You no longer want shallow connections that burn fast and fade faster, you want depth, safety, alignment, something that feels peaceful even in uncertainty. And God is responding to that desire right now, not by rushing the outcome, but by refining your expectations. Because rushed connections break under pressure. but aligned ones grow stronger through it. And hear this clearly, because this is prophetic. The reason certain relationships didn't last wasn't because you were too much, it's because they were never meant to go where you're going. And God didn't remove them to punish you, He removed them to protect you, to make room for the kind of connection that doesn't require you to shrink, explain, or settle. And yes, for some of you this is where the soulmate theme activates strongly, not fantasy, not obsession, but divine alignment. The kind of meeting that feels familiar, calm, almost déjà vu. The kind where conversation flows without effort and silence feels safe. The kind where you don't have to perform to be valued. And before that connection manifests physically, God has been working internally, healing how you attach, how you communicate, how you receive love, because you cannot sustain a healthy bond with an unhealed heart. And instead of sending you the person too early, God chose to grow you deeper, because deep roots hold strong relationships, and shallow roots collapse under real life. And if you've been feeling moments of loneliness even when you're not alone, moments where you crave something you can't name, moments where memories surface unexpectedly, or dreams feel symbolic and emotional rather than random, those are not signs of weakness, those are signals of transition. Your soul is shedding an old skin, preparing to recognize what's next, and God is also sharpening your intuition right now, teaching you to notice red flags without ignoring them, to recognize green flags without questioning them, to trust peace more than excitement, because excitement fades but peace remains. And this lesson will save you years of heartache if you let it. And while this transformation is happening internally, the universe is responding externally, synchronizing timing, aligning paths, repositioning people. And you don't need to see every step to trust the direction, because God doesn't reveal the full map, He reveals the next step. And today's step is awareness, the awareness that you are no longer chasing what drains you, you are attracting what aligns with you. And this shift also affects your purpose, because love and calling are never separate, they influence each other. And as you become clearer about who you are, your purpose becomes clearer too. The distractions lose their pull, the noise loses its power, and the things that once confused you begin to settle into understanding. And there is also a gentle warning wrapped in this moment. Don't sabotage what God is building by rushing to fill emotional gaps with temporary comfort. Don't go backward just because forward feels unfamiliar, because unfamiliar doesn't mean unsafe, it often means upgraded. And God is saying, trust me enough to let the process finish, because halfway healing still bleeds, but completed healing changes lives. And right now your heart is being recalibrated to receive differently, to love without fear, to stand without apology, to choose without guilt. And as this prayer continues, confidence is rising, not loud confidence, but quiet assurance, the kind that doesn't need validation, the kind that knows its worth even in silence. And you may not notice it immediately, but later today, or tomorrow, or very soon, you will catch yourself reacting differently, choosing differently, speaking differently. And that's how you'll know this shift is real, because prophecy doesn't always show up as fireworks. Sometimes it shows up as peace, clarity, and the sudden realization that you are no longer the person who settled for less. And from this place, everything that aligns with you will begin to find you naturally, without force, without fear, without confusion, because you are no longer chasing purpose, love, or destiny. You are finally ready to receive them. Stay right here with me, don't rush past this moment, because this is where the message becomes personal in a way that feels almost uncomfortable, like someone reading thoughts you haven't said out loud yet. And that's because God is addressing the part of you that learned how to survive quietly, the part that learned how to smile while carrying weight, the part that became strong because it had no other choice. And today God is not asking you to be strong anymore, He is asking you to be honest honest about how tired you've been, honest about how much pressure you've been under, honest about the fear you don't like admitting because you've always been the one others lean on. And hear this clearly: strength does not mean silence. Strength does not mean suffering alone. And this morning God is releasing you from the pressure to hold everything together by yourself, because you were never meant to. And this is why peace is being emphasized so strongly in this prayer, not surface peace, not distraction peace, but deep soul peace, the kind that reaches places in you that have been tense for so long you forgot what relaxation even feels like, because your nervous system has been living in survival mode, always bracing for the next problem, the next disappointment, the next letdown. And God is saying today you can unclench, today you can rest your shoulders, today you can stop anticipating disaster. Because I am with you in ways you don't yet understand. And as these words reach you, peace is settling not as an emotion but as a decision, a divine permission to stop replaying worst-case scenarios in your mind, to stop punishing yourself for things that are already forgiven, to stop measuring your worth by productivity, approval, or outcomes. And this is also where emotional healing begins to accelerate. Because God is gently touching old wounds that you thought were healed but were actually just buried. Wounds from rejection, abandonment, betrayal, and unmet expectations, wounds that taught you to guard your heart so tightly that even good things struggled to get in. And God is not reopening those wounds to hurt you, He is reopening them to heal them properly, to remove the infection of self-blame, to release the residue of shame, to remind you that what happened to you is not the same as who you are. And this is why some of you have felt emotionally sensitive lately, more reflective, more aware, more affected by words, memories, or moments, because healing often feels like vulnerability before it feels like freedom. And God is asking you not to shut down now, not to numb out, not to distract yourself, but to let the process complete. Because what you allow yourself to feel is what God can finally heal. And while this healing is happening internally, strength is being rebuilt differently than before. Not the frantic strength that comes from fear of losing control, but steady strength rooted in trust, the kind that doesn't panic when things take time, the kind that doesn't collapse when plans change, the kind that doesn't chase validation because it knows where its value comes from. And this strength will show up subtly at first, in how you respond instead of react, in how you pause instead of rush, in how you choose peace over proving a point. And that is growth, real growth, the kind that lasts. And God is also addressing your future here, because peace and strength are not just for comfort, they are preparation for responsibilities you haven't stepped into yet, for blessings that require maturity, for connections that need emotional safety, for doors that won't stay open if you walk through them carrying old fear. And this is why God has been slowing you down instead of speeding things up. Because rushing feels productive, but it often bypasses wisdom. And wisdom is what sustains blessings. And there is also a spiritual protection happening right now, one you may not be aware of. But God has been shielding you from things you were emotionally drawn to but spiritually unprepared for. Shielding you from people who would have drained you, opportunities that looked good but came with hidden costs, timelines that would have overwhelmed you. And instead of frustration, God is inviting gratitude, not because the waiting is easy, but because the waiting is purposeful. And today is about reframing how you see this season, not as punishment, not as stagnation, but as strengthening. Because soldiers train before battle, seeds root before they rise, and storms reveal foundations. And God knows exactly what you need for what's coming. And here is where the suspense deepens, because there is a calm forming before movement, a quiet confidence settling before action, a sense of readiness replacing anxiety. And you may feel it later today when something that used to trigger you doesn't anymore, when something that once scared you suddenly feels manageable, when you realize you're no longer desperate for answers the way you used to be, and that's when you'll know peace has taken root. And from this place of peace, decisions become clearer, boundaries become firmer, love becomes healthier, and faith becomes steadier. And God is saying, remember this moment. Because this is where you stopped striving and started trusting. This is where you release control and receive clarity. This is where you realize that strength does not come from holding on tighter, but from letting go with confidence. And as this prayer continues to move through you, you are being covered, fortified, stabilized, and prepared, not for chaos, but for consistency, not for survival, but for sustainability, not for proving, but for becoming. And the peace you are receiving now is not fragile, it is anchored, and the strength rising in you now is not loud, it is reliable. And from this place, you will walk into the rest of this day, and the days ahead, different, calmer, steadier, and quietly confident, knowing that whatever comes next, you are not facing it alone, you are not unprepared, and you are not weak, you are ready. Now stay with me, because this is where the atmosphere shifts again. This is where expectancy rises and the message turns forward-facing, because God is not only healing you, strengthening you, and steadying your heart, He is also preparing you for movement, and movement always begins internally before it shows up externally. And right now there is a stirring happening inside you, subtle but undeniable, like something is waking up after a long rest, like a sense of readiness you haven't felt in a while. And that's because this season of your life is not about survival anymore. It's about alignment. It's about positioning. It's about being ready when the moment arrives instead of scrambling when it does. And God is saying, I am not rushing you, but I am readying you. Because what's coming requires clarity, not confusion, courage, not fear, and faith, not force. And this is where many people miss it. Because they think breakthrough always arrives loud, dramatic, and sudden, but often it arrives quietly, disguised as calm, disguised as confidence, disguised as peace that doesn't make sense yet. And if you've been feeling unusually calm about things that once terrified you, or strangely hopeful about situations that haven't changed yet, that's not denial, that's discernment. That's your spirit sensing that God is already ahead of you, working out details you don't have access to yet. And hear this clearly, because this part matters. There are conversations being aligned that you're not part of yet, decisions being influenced without your name being mentioned, doors being softened before you ever knock, and resistance being removed quietly so you don't have to fight battles you were never meant to fight. And God is asking you not to underestimate the power of what you're doing right now, listening, receiving, allowing. Because this posture is what attracts favor, humility before breakthrough, trust before manifestation. And this is also where the warning gently comes in, not to scare you, but to prepare you. Don't let impatience talk you out of what alignment is bringing you toward. Don't let boredom convince you to settle. Don't let comparison rush you into decisions that don't match your season. Because just because something looks available doesn't mean it's assigned to you. And God has been teaching you discernment for a reason, sharpening your ability to pause, to pray, to feel, to listen before acting. And this will protect you in the next phase, especially when opportunities start appearing closer together, because they will, when movement begins. It often comes in waves, options multiply, attention increases, and distractions become louder. And that's why peace had to come first, strength had to be rebuilt first, healing had to be completed first, because a restless heart makes impulsive choices, but a grounded heart makes aligned ones. And right now your heart is becoming grounded, anchored, steady. And from this place you will recognize what's meant for you without needing to convince yourself, without needing to force excitement, without needing to ask 10 people for validation. Because when something is aligned, it brings peace with it, even if it stretches you. And this also applies to love, because some of you are closer to a meaningful connection than you realize, not because you're searching harder, but because you've stopped searching from a place of lack. and that shift changes everything, because lack attracts lessons, but wholeness attracts partnership, and God is not sending you someone to fill a void. He is sending alignment to walk with you into purpose. And when that connection comes, it won't feel chaotic, it won't feel confusing, it won't leave you anxious. It will feel steady, intentional, respectful, and mutual. And this is why God had to teach you patience first, because patience protects promise, and promise without patience collapses under pressure. And this message is also for your purpose, because there is a calling on your life that requires consistency more than bursts of motivation, requires obedience more than applause, requires faithfulness in small moments before influence in larger ones. And God has been watching how you handle the quiet seasons, the unseen work, the days when no one claps but you still show up, and that faithfulness is being noted, not overlooked. And as this Saturday unfolds, you may notice small confirmations, subtle encouragements, moments that feel timed just right, conversations that land differently, thoughts that feel clearer, ideas that feel inspired instead of forced. And those are signs that movement has begun, even if it's not obvious yet, because God often moves in increments, not explosions. And increments compound, and this is where trust becomes action, not frantic action, but faithful action, choosing peace over panic, choosing obedience over impulse, choosing alignment over approval. And God is saying you don't have to have everything figured out to move forward, you just have to stay connected to me, because I direct steps, not leaps. And here is where the suspense deepens again, because something is going to require a response from you soon, a choice, a yes, a no, a pause, or a step forward. And the clarity you're receiving now is what will guide that moment, and you won't feel rushed when it happens, you'll feel ready. And that's how you'll know this preparation mattered, because readiness feels calm, not chaotic. And as we continue, expectation is rising, not anxiety-driven expectation, but quiet anticipation, the kind that trusts timing, honors process, and believes that what is meant for you will arrive exactly when you're able to sustain it. And God is saying, hold steady now, don't drift. Don't disengage, don't give up attention to what I'm doing inside you, because you are closer than you think, closer to clarity, closer to alignment, closer to a breakthrough that doesn't just change your circumstances, but changes how you walk through them. And this is not hype, this is preparation, and preparation is always the sign that movement is near. Now take a slow breath and stay right here, because this is the moment where everything settles into place, where the noise fades and the truth becomes clear, where God gently closes this message not with urgency but with assurance, because what He wanted you to hear has already landed exactly where it needed to land. And right now heaven is sealing what was spoken, anchoring it in your spirit so it doesn't fade when the day gets busy. And God is saying, remember this feeling, remember this calm, remember this clarity, because this is how alignment feels, not rushed, not anxious, not desperate, but steady, rooted, and sure. And even if your circumstances haven't visibly changed yet, something far more important already has. Your perspective has shifted, your heart has softened, your faith has steadied, and that is always the real breakthrough. Because external change follows internal alignment, never the other way around. And God wants you to know that you don't need to strive after what's coming. You don't need to chase blessings, relationships, purpose, or validation. Because what is meant for you is already moving toward you under divine instruction, guided by timing you can trust even when you don't understand it. And this is where peace deepens even more. Because you realize you are not responsible for forcing outcomes, you are only responsible for staying aligned, staying open, staying faithful, staying grounded, and letting God do what only He can do. And hear this clearly. Because this is a promise, nothing meant for you will bypass you, nothing assigned to you will be delayed beyond its appointed time. and nothing removed from your life was ever capable of sustaining your future, even if it felt painful to let go. Because God never subtracts without intention, He clears space for expansion, and today marks a quiet but powerful completion, the closing of a chapter that required endurance, patience, and resilience, and the beginning of another that will require trust, consistency, and courage, and you don't have to be fearless to walk into it. You just have to be willing, because courage is not the absence of fear, it's movement in spite of it, and God has been building that courage in you step by step, moment by moment, choice by choice, even when you didn't notice it happening. And now as you move through the rest of this Saturday, there will be a noticeable lightness, not because everything is perfect, but because you're no longer carrying everything alone. And this is also where gratitude naturally begins to rise, not forced gratitude, but genuine appreciation for how far you've come, for what you've survived, for who you've become. And gratitude is powerful, because gratitude keeps your heart open for what's next instead of bitter about what's past. And God is inviting you to walk forward with expectation, not anxious expectation that demands results, but peaceful expectation that trusts timing. And this expectation will change how you speak, how you think, how you decide. Because when you expect good, you stop settling for less. And this message also carries a gentle instruction for the days ahead. Guard your peace, protect your energy. Be mindful of what you allow into your spirit, conversations, content, environments. Because sensitivity is part of alignment, not weakness, and what you nurture now will grow quickly. And God is also reminding you that you don't have to announce every step you take. Some things are meant to be built quietly, protected from outside opinions until they are strong enough to stand on their own. And if you feel drawn to solitude at times, it's not isolation, it's incubation. And incubation always precedes manifestation, and this is especially true for the things you care about most: love, calling, purpose, healing. And God is saying trust the process even when it feels slow, because slow growth lasts, rushed growth fractures. And the beauty of this moment is that you are no longer desperate for answers, you are comfortable with unfolding. And that comfort is what allows God to work freely, without resistance, without fear, without you constantly looking back. And as this prayer concludes, a final declaration is being released over you, spoken softly but firmly. You are covered, you are guided, you are protected, you are favored, you are strengthened, you are loved more deeply than you realize, and you are exactly where you need to be to step into what's next, and nothing you've walked through was wasted, not the waiting, not the pain, not the confusion, not the tears, because every season shaped you for this moment of readiness. And from here, life doesn't suddenly become perfect, but it becomes purposeful, meaningful, and aligned, and that changes everything. And later, when you think back to this morning, to this prayer, to this feeling, you'll realize this was a marker, a spiritual checkpoint, a reminder from God that you are not wandering, you are being led. And so walk into the rest of today with confidence, speak kindly to yourself, move gently with others, stay present in the moment, and trust that the same God who brought you this far is already waiting for you in the future. And when doubts try to return, remember this truth: peace found you today for a reason, strength rose in you today for a reason, clarity settled in you today for a reason, and that reason is simple. You are ready, and your story is still unfolding beautifully, exactly as it should.